My beloved child, something has already begun, and you were not meant to discover it this way. But time is no longer waiting for you. On this very day, May 24th, a divine alert hath been released from the heavenly realm, and Archangel Michael himself steps forward with a message that cannot be delayed, softened, or ignored. Here is a covering that has surrounded you, quietly, faithfully, invisibly, for longer than you realize. It has shielded you from dangers you never saw, battles you never fought, and losses that were silently prevented. But now that covering is slowly pulling away. You may not have noticed it at first. It didn't vanish all at once. It began as a slight shift, a feeling you couldn't explain, a heaviness that crept in without warning, a strange disconnection that didn't make sense. You tried to ignore it, thinking it was just a passing moment. But what you are feeling is real. What you are sensing is not your imagination. It is a signal, a warning, a divine whisper turning into a loud call. And here is the part that may shake you. This is not happening because you were abandoned. This is not happening because you were forgotten. It is happening because of one silent mistake, one small, unnoticed action or inaction that created a gap. Not a loud rebellion, not a dramatic fall, just a quiet misalignment. Something so subtle that you may have brushed it aside, but in the spiritual realm, it echoed louder than you think. Right now, as you hear these words, the clock has already started. You have less than 2 hours, not symbolic time, not someday, but a real, spiritual window that is open in this very moment. A window where heaven is waiting for your response. A window where correction can still be made. Because once this window closes, the distance created by that silent mistake may take much longer to repair. Listen carefully, this is not meant to scare you, but to wake you. Archangel Michael is not bringing this message to condemn you, but to protect you before it is too late. He stands as a guardian, holding back what could come next, giving you this final chance to realign, to recognize, to respond. Have you felt the shift in your peace? Have you noticed how certain things suddenly feel harder than they used to? Have you sensed a quiet distance where there once was clarity? These are not coincidences. These are signs. The covering hasn't completely left, but it is no longer as strong as it was yesterday. And here is the truth you must hold on to right now. It can still be restored. Completely. Fully. Instantly. But only if you act within this moment. Do not scroll away. Do not delay this. Because what you choose in the next moments will determine whether the divine covering returns stronger than ever or continues to fade. This is your alert. This is your moment. And heaven is watching what you do next. Tell me, are you ready to hear what that silent mistake is? There is something you must understand now. Something deeper than what you have been told before, because without this understanding, you may not fully grasp what is truly at risk. The covering of God is not just a poetic phrase or a comforting idea. It is a living, active presence that surrounds your life every single day. It is the invisible shield that has gone before you, stood behind you, and rested upon you, even in moments when you felt completely alone. From the very beginning, this covering has been your unseen defense. It is what redirected certain dangers away from your path without you ever realizing it. It is what softened the impact of situations that should have broken you. It is what allowed doors to open at the exact right time and kept others firmly closed when they would have led you into harm. You thought it was coincidence. You thought it was luck. But it was never random. It was intentional, precise, and divinely placed over your life. And this is why today's warning carries such weight. Because when that covering begins to pull away, even slowly, it is not just a spiritual shift. It begins to affect everything. Your thoughts may feel more clouded. Your emotions may become heavier. Decisions that once felt clear now feel confusing. Situations that once flowed with ease may now feel blocked or delayed. This is not because your life is falling apart, but because something that was quietly holding everything together is no longer as present as it once was. Archangel Michael wants you to understand that this covering is deeply connected to alignment. It is not something that is randomly given or taken away without reason. It responds to your spiritual position, your awareness, your connection, your willingness to stay in harmony with what has been placed before you. When you are aligned, the covering is strong, steady, and unshakable. But when a gap forms, even a small one, it creates an opening. And this is where many people misunderstand. They believe that losing this sense of protection only happens through major mistakes or obvious wrongdoing. But that is not always the case. Sometimes, it is the quiet things that create the greatest shifts. A moment of ignoring what you felt deep inside. A delay in responding to something you knew required your attention. A slow drifting away from that inner connection that once guided you clearly. The covering does not disappear in anger. It responds in truth. It adjusts based on where you stand. And right now, it is adjusting, not completely gone, not fully withdrawn, but shifting in a way that is meant to get your attention before it is too late. Think back for a moment. There was a time when you felt more protected, more certain, more at peace. Even in difficult situations, there was a calm assurance that everything would somehow work out. That was not just your mindset, but with the covering at work. It was surrounding you, stabilizing you, guiding outcomes in ways you could not see. And now compare that to what you may be feeling today. There is a difference, isn't there? A subtle but undeniable shift. And that shift is exactly why this message has reached you at this precise moment. But here is what you must not forget: this is not a final loss. This is a warning before the loss becomes real. This is a moment of awareness, being handed to you while there is still time to respond. Archangel Michael is standing as a witness to this moment, not to accuse you, but to guide you back into alignment. Because once you understand what this covering truly is, you will also understand why it is so important to restore it now, without hesitation, without delay. And the truth you are about to hear next will reveal exactly what created this shift in the first place. Listen closely now, because what is about to be revealed may not be what you expected. The mistake that caused this shift, the one that allowed God's covering to begin pulling away, was not loud, not obvious, and not something others could easily point out. It was silent. It was internal. And that is exactly why it went unnoticed for so long. The mistake was this: you ignored a divine nudge. There was a moment, not too long ago, when you felt something deep within you. A quiet prompting, a gentle pull in your spirit. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't overwhelming, but it was clear enough that you recognized it. You knew something needed your attention. You knew there was an action to take, a decision to make, or something to release. But instead of responding, you paused, and then you delayed, and then, slowly, you moved on without acting on it. At the time, it didn't seem like a big deal. You told yourself you would come back to it later. You convinced yourself it could wait. But in the spiritual realm, that moment mattered more than you realized. Because every divine nudge is an invitation to stay aligned. And when that invitation is ignored, even quietly, it creates a small distance, a gap that begins to grow if it is not corrected. Archangel Michael is revealing this not to bring guilt upon you, but to bring clarity. Because this is where many lose their connection without understanding why. They don't see the link between the small moments of hesitation and the larger shifts that follow. But heaven sees it clearly. Every time you are guided and choose not to respond, it weakens that alignment just enough for the covering to adjust. Think about it now. That moment you pushed aside, it comes back to you, doesn't it? You can feel it. You remember the exact situation, the exact feeling, the exact inner voice that told you, do this now, or step away from that, or pay attention to this. And you didn't act. This is the silent mistake. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't defiance. It was simply a delay in obedience. But even delay carries weight. Because timing matters in the spiritual realm. What is meant to be done in one moment cannot always be carried into another without consequence. And that is why today, May 24th, has become so critical for you. The covering began to pull away not because you are unworthy, but because the connection was interrupted. And when that connection weakens, the flow of protection, clarity, and favor is affected. It doesn't stop all at once, but it begins to shift. You may have noticed it without realizing the cause. The way things started feeling slightly off. The way your peace became less stable. The way certain situations began to feel heavier than they should. These were not random changes. They were signals pointing back to that one moment you overlooked. But hear this clearly, it is not too late. That is why this message has reached you now, at this exact time. Because the same God who allowed you to feel that nudge in the first place is now giving you another chance to respond. The window is still open, but it will not remain open for long. This is your opportunity to correct what was delayed, to realign what was shifted, and to restore what began to pull away. Archangel Michael stands as a protector in this moment, holding back what could unfold if this continues unchecked. But even he cannot override your choice. You must be the one to respond. You must be the one to act. So ask yourself now, with complete honesty, what was that nudge? What were you asked to do that you didn't follow through on? Because your answer to that question holds the key to everything that happens next. Type "I realign" now in the comments if you feel this truth stirring within you. Blessing code 3344 has just been released over your life, activating clarity, correction, and divine reconnection in this very moment. And as this realization settles into your spirit, understand this: you are not being called out, you are being called back. This is not the end of your covering, it is the beginning of its restoration. If you choose to act, now is the moment. There are signs clear, undeniable sign that the covering has already begun to shift around you. Not all at once, not in a dramatic collapse, but in subtle disruptions that have quietly entered your life. And if you pay attention now, you will recognize them, not as random struggles, but as spiritual indicators calling for your awareness. One of the first signs is a disturbance in your peace. You may have noticed that the calm you once carried so naturally now feels fragile. Small things seem to affect you more deeply than before. Situations that you would have handled with quiet confidence now leave you unsettled, overthinking, or emotionally drained. This is not weakness. It is the absence of something that was once stabilizing you from within. Another sign is confusion where there used to be clarity. Decisions that once felt simple now seem complicated. You find yourself questioning things repeatedly, unsure of which direction to take. It feels like the inner guidance you relied on has become faint or distant. This happens because when alignment is disrupted, the flow of direction becomes less clear. The covering did more than protect you. It helped guide your steps. And now that guidance feels interrupted, you may also be experiencing unusual delays. Doors that once opened effortlessly now seem stuck. Plans that should have moved forward easily are slowing down without explanation. It can feel frustrating, even discouraging, as if something is blocking your progress. But these delays are not meant to punish you. They are signals. They are pauses designed to get your attention before you move further out of alignment. Archangel Michael reveals that another sign is an increase in internal heaviness. Not necessarily visible to others, but something you feel when you are alone. A weight in your spirit. A sense that something is not quite right, even if everything around you appears normal. This heaviness is not coming from nowhere. It is the result of that silent gap that was created. It is your spirit recognizing the shift, even if your mind has not fully understood it yet. You might also notice an increase in small conflicts or misunderstandings. Conversations that should be simple become tense. Interactions feel slightly off. There is a lack of smoothness in communication that wasn't there before. This happens because the covering also helped maintain harmony in ways you couldn't see. As it shifts, that harmony becomes less stable. And then there is the loss of ease. This is perhaps the most noticeable sign. Things that once flowed naturally now require more effort. What used to feel light now feels heavy. What used to come together now seems to fall apart or take longer than expected. It's not that everything is failing. It's that the ease that once surrounded you have been reduced. But listen carefully, none of these signs mean that you are beyond restoration. In fact, they are proof that restoration is still possible. Because if the covering had completely lifted, you would not be receiving these warnings. You would not be feeling these signals. The fact that you are aware, the fact that something feels off, is itself a form of protection. Archangel Michael is showing you these signs so you do not ignore them any longer. Because the danger is not in the shift itself. The danger is in continuing without recognizing it. Many people move forward, unaware that their alignment has been disrupted, and they only realize it when the consequences become much harder to reverse. But you have been given insight in time. Take a moment right now and reflect. Which of these signs have you been experiencing? Where have you felt the shift the most? Because your awareness is the first step toward restoration. Ignoring it will only allow the gap to widen. But acknowledging it, that is where change begins. Do not dismiss what you are feeling. Do not label it as coincidence or overthinking. These are real signals, and they are meant for you. They are guiding you back before it goes too far. And as you recognize these signs, something deeper is about to be revealed, something that explains why this moment, this exact day, has become so spiritually significant for you. There is a reason this message has found you today, and not yesterday, not tomorrow, but on this exact day, May 24th. This is not random timing. This is not coincidence. In the spiritual realm, timing carries weight, meaning, and precision. And today stands as a checkpoint, a moment where alignment is being measured, where decisions are being observed, and where correction is being invited before consequences fully unfold. You may wonder why today. What makes this moment different from all the others? The answer lies in the nature of divine timing. There are certain windows in your life when everything becomes more sensitive, your thoughts, your actions, your responses. These are moments when even the smallest shifts carry greater impact. And May 24th is one of those moments for you. This day has been marked as a point of awareness. A moment where what has been hidden is brought into light. A moment where delays can no longer remain unnoticed. A moment where the silent mistake you made is no longer allowed to stay silent. Not because you are being exposed in judgment, but because you are being awakened in mercy. Archangel Michael reveals that today is not just about warning, it is about opportunity. Because whenever heaven highlights a moment like this, it always comes with a choice. You are not being forced into anything. You are being given a chance to respond while the door is still open. Think of it as a divine intersection. Behind you is the moment where the mistake occurred, the nudge you ignored, the alignment that shifted. In front of you are two paths. One leads back into alignment, where the covering is restored, strengthened, and made even more secure than before. The other continues forward without correction, where the distance slowly increases and the covering continues to fade. And what makes today so critical is this: the decision you make now determines which path you step onto. There are moments in life when time feels flexible, when delays seem harmless, when waiting appears safe. But this is not one of those moments. Today carries a different weight. It is a moment of spiritual urgency, where delay is no longer neutral. Delay now becomes a choice in itself. You have already seen the signs. You have already felt the shift. And now you are being shown the timing. This is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to focus you. Because when you understand that this moment matters, you begin to treat it differently. You begin to respond instead of postponing. You begin to act instead of hesitating. Archangel Michael stands at this moment as both a witness and a guide. He is not here to rush you in confusion, but to make you aware of the urgency so that you do not lose what can still be restored. His presence in this message is not accidental. It is intentional, protective, and aligned with your highest good. And here is something you must hold on to: this moment is not just about correcting a mistake. It is about strengthening your connection in a way that prevents this from happening again. Because when you respond correctly in a moment like this, something shifts permanently within you. Your awareness sharpens. Your sensitivity to divine nudges increases. Your alignment becomes stronger and more stable. This is why today matters. Not just for what you fix, but for what you become after fixing it. Do not treat this as just another message. Do not let it pass by as something you will think about later. Later is what created the delay in the first place. And now, later is no longer available in the same way. Right now is where everything is happening. Right now is where the decision is being made. Right now is where the covering can begin to return to its full strength. So take this moment seriously, not with fear, but with awareness. Because you are not being left without guidance. You are being positioned at the exact point where change is still possible. And what you are about to hear next will reveal the powerful role that Archangel Michael is playing in this very situation, and why his presence in your life right now is more important than ever. There is a presence around you right now that you cannot see with your eyes, yet its influence is stronger than you realize. This is not imagination. This is not symbolic language. This is the active, intentional involvement of Archangel Michael, and his role in this moment is far more critical than you may have ever understood before. He is not distant. He is not observing from afar. He is positioned near you in this very moment, not to judge, not to accuse, but to protect and to intervene. Because when a shift like this begins, when God's covering starts to pull away even slightly, it creates a vulnerability. Not an immediate collapse, but an opening. And it is in these openings that unseen battles begin to form. This is where Archangel Michael steps in. He is known as a defender, a warrior, a guardian of those who are still within reach of restoration. His assignment is not random. He is sent when protection must be reinforced, when a warning must be delivered clearly, and when a soul is standing at the edge of a decision that carries spiritual consequences. That is where you are right now, not lost, not abandoned, but standing at a point where your next step matters deeply. You may not hear his voice in a physical way, but you are hearing him through this message. Every word that is stirring something inside you, every moment of realization, every sense that this is speaking directly to your situation. This is not coincidence. This is how guidance reaches you when it needs to bypass distraction and speak directly to your spirit. Understand this clearly. Archangel Michael does not act without purpose. If he is present now, it means the situation is significant. It means there's something worth protecting, something worth restoring, something worth fighting for, and that something's you. But his role is not to force your decision. He does not override your will. He stands ready, prepared to act, but waiting for your alignment, because protection is strongest when it is invited through awareness and response. When you recognize the moment and choose to step back into alignment, you activate the full strength of what has been sent to guard you. Right now, he is holding a line, a boundary between what has been delayed and what could unfold if nothing changes. You may not see it, but there are things being kept from reaching you because of his presence. There are outcomes being delayed, situations being restrained, and influences being held back, all to give you this window of time to respond. But this window is not permanent. There comes a point where even divine protection steps back when a person chooses to remain out of alignment, not as punishment but as a reflection of choice. And that is why this moment carries urgency, because Archangel Michael is not here to replace your decision. He is here to support it once you make it. Think about that carefully. You are not alone in this. You are not expected to fix everything by yourself. You are being assisted, guided, and protected, but only to the extent that you are willing to respond. This is a partnership between your awareness and divine intervention. And here is something even deeper. When you respond correctly in a moment like this, the protection does not just return. It intensifies. It becomes stronger than before. Because now it is not just based on presence but on awareness. You begin to move differently. You begin to listen more closely. You begin to act more quickly when you sense something within you. It is the transformation that is waiting for you on the other side of this moment. But first you must choose. Archangel Michael is ready. The covering is ready to be restored. The path back into alignment is already open. The only question that remains is this: will you step into it while there is still time? Because what comes next will reveal what happens if this moment is ignored, and why that is something you cannot afford to let happen. There is a truth you must face now, not to bring fear into your heart, but to awaken a level of awareness that cannot be ignored. Because if this moment passes without action, if the silence continues, if the delay becomes your final response, there are consequences that will begin to unfold. Not instantly, not all at once, but steadily, quietly, and with increasing weight over time. When God's covering continues to pull away, the first thing that begins to change is your sensitivity to direction. You start to rely more on your own understanding, your own reasoning, your own limited perspective. What once felt guided now feels uncertain. You begin to make decisions without that inner confirmation you used to have. And slowly, without realizing it, you step further away from the path that was designed specifically for you. This is how distance begins, not through one major moment, but through a series of small, unchecked steps. Archangel Michael is revealing this so you understand the seriousness of inaction. Because many people believe that doing nothing is safe. They believe that if they simply wait, things will correct themselves. But in moments like this, doing nothing is not neutral. It is a decision. It is a continuation of the same silence that created the gap in the first place. And as that silence continues, the covering weakens further. You may begin to notice that opportunities pass you by, opportunities that once would have aligned perfectly with your life. not because they were taken from you, but because the alignment required to receive them is no longer fully in place. Timing becomes misaligned. Doors that were meant to open at the right moment now close or never appear at all. At the same time, challenges may begin to feel heavier than they should. Situations that could have been resolved quickly begin to stretch out, becoming more complicated, more draining, more difficult to navigate. This is not because you are incapable, but because the support that once carried you through these moments has been reduced. There is also a deeper consequence that many fail to recognize: the quiet distancing of your connection. Not a complete separation, but a subtle drift. You may still believe, you may still hope, but that strong sense of closeness, that clarity, that inner peace, it becomes harder to access. And over time, this can lead to a feeling of isolation, even when you are not truly alone. Archangel Michael does not want this for you. That is why this message is being delivered now, before these consequences fully take hold. Because once they deepen, the process of returning becomes longer, more difficult, and more complex. Not impossible, but heavier than it needs to be. Understand this clearly: this is not about punishment. This is about alignment. The consequences are not being sent to harm you. They are the natural result of moving outside the protection that was surrounding you. When the covering is strong, it absorbs, redirects, and shields. But when it weakens, you begin to feel the full weight of what was once being held back. And yet, even in this truth, there is hope, because you are not there yet. You are not beyond restoration. You are not trapped in those consequences. You are standing at the edge of a decision that can prevent all of it from unfolding. That is the power of this moment. That is why the urgency exists. Not to rush you blindly, but to show you what is at stake so you can choose wisely. Right now, you still have clarity. You still have awareness. You still have the ability to respond and correct the course. Archangel Michael is holding this moment open for you, but he will not hold it forever, because your choice must be real. Your response must come from within you, not from pressure, not from fear, but from understanding. So do not let this pass. Do not convince yourself that you can return to this later. Later is what created this gap, and continuing in that pattern will only deepen it. Instead, recognize what is being shown to you. Feel the weight of it, not as a burden, but as clarity. Because when you truly understand what happens if nothing changes, you will also understand why what comes next is so important. And what comes next is not complicated. It is not hidden. It is simple, direct, and within your reach right now. And now listen carefully, because what you must do next is not complicated, not unreachable, and not reserved for someone else. It is simple, but it must be done with sincerity, awareness, and without delay. This is the step that restores alignment. This is the action that begins to pull the covering back over your life. You must return to that moment you ignored and respond to it now. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. The silent nudge you felt before, the one you pushed aside, it did not disappear. It had been waiting. And the moment you choose to acknowledge it again, something begins to shift immediately. The connection that was weakened starts to reconnect. The gap that was created begins to close. This is how restoration begins, not through something new, but through completing what was left undone. Archangel Michael is guiding you back to that exact point. He is not asking you to search endlessly or question everything in your life. He is pointing you to one specific place, the place where you felt that inner prompting and chose not to act. So ask yourself now, what was it? Was it something you were meant to step away from, but you stayed connected to it? Was it something you were meant to begin but you hesitated? Was it a conversation you were meant to have, a truth you were meant to face, or a decision you were meant to make? Whatever it was, it has not lost its importance. It is still the key. And here is the action: you must respond to it with honesty and immediacy. If it was something you needed to release, then release it now. If it was something you needed to begin, then take the first step now. If it was something you needed to correct, then correct it now. Do not overthink it. Do not try to make it perfect. The power is not in perfection. The power is in obedience. The moment you act, something shifts in the spiritual realm. The alignment that was broken begins to restore. The flow that was interrupted begins to move again. And the covering that started to pull away begins to return. But there is another part to this step, something deeper that must not be overlooked. You must speak. Not just think about it. Not just feel it. You must express it clearly and intentionally. Whether it is through prayer, through quiet words spoken from your heart, or through a simple acknowledgement, you must break the silence that created the gap. Say what needs to be said. Admit where you delayed. Acknowledge what you felt and did not act on. This is not about guilt. This is about reconnection. Because silence created distance, and now your voice must restore connection. Archangel Michael stands ready as you do this. The moment you respond, he moves with you. The moment you realign, he reinforces what is being restored. You are not doing this alone. You are stepping into a moment that is already prepared for your return. And understand this: the speed of your response matters. Not because you are being rushed without reason, but because the window you are in is still open. This is the moment where correction is light, where restoration is immediate, where alignment can be reestablished without resistance. If you delay again, it becomes heavier. Not impossible, but heavier. So do not wait for a better time. Do not wait for a clear feeling. You already have what you need. You already know what the nudge was. And now, you have the awareness to act on it. This is your moment of decision. Type IACT now in the comments if you are choosing to respond in this moment. Blessing code 5588 has just been released, activating immediate restoration, divine alignment, and renewed protection over your life. And as you take this step, as you break the silence and respond, something powerful is about to happen within you, something that will reopen the connection that once felt distant and restore the closeness you may have felt slipping away. What comes next will guide you even deeper into that restored connection. Now that you have taken that step, now that you have responded, acknowledged, and begun to realign, something deeper must be restored. Because the silence that created the gap was not just about one moment. It reflected a pattern that must now be broken completely. This is where true reconnection begins. This is where the distance between you and God is not only reduced, but completely removed. Breaking the silence is not just about speaking once. It is about reopening a flow that was meant to remain constant in your life. There was a time when this flow felt natural to you. You didn't have to force it. You didn't have to question it. There was a quiet awareness, a sense of being guided, a feeling that you were not moving through life alone. That was connection. That was alignment in motion. But when the silence entered, when that one moment of delay turned into a pause, and that pause stretched into disconnection, it interrupted that flow. Not permanently, but enough to create distance. And distance, if left unaddressed, becomes a pattern. Archangel Michael is revealing this so you understand that what you are restoring now is not just a single moment of obedience, but an ongoing connection. Because the covering you seek to restore is sustained through relationship, not through isolated actions. So what does it mean to truly break the silence? It means you no longer ignore what you feel within you when it is clear and steady. It means you respond, even in small ways, when something calls for your attention. It means you allow yourself to pause and listen, instead of rushing past moments that carry meaning. It means you stay aware, present, and willing to act. This does not require perfection. It requires consistency. You may think that connection must be something grand or deeply spiritual in a visible way, but often it is found in the simplest moments. A thought that leads you to reflect. A feeling that encourages you to step back or move forward. A quiet awareness that something matters more than you first realized. These are all forms of communication. And when you begin to respond to them instead of dismissing them, the connection strengthens naturally. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being asked to return to what was already within you. Archangel Michael stands beside you as this connection is restored, not as a distant guardian, but as an active presence reinforcing your awareness. Every time you choose to listen instead of ignore, every time you act instead of delay, you are strengthening that alignment. And as that alignment strengthens, the covering follows. Because the covering is not separate from your connection, it is a reflection of it. As you rebuild this flow, you will begin to notice something shifting again. The confusion that once clouded your thoughts will begin to clear. The heaviness you felt will start to lift. Decisions will feel more natural, more certain. You will sense direction returning, not as something forced, but as something that feels right again. This is how you know the connection is being restored. But do not rush this process. Do not expect everything to return instantly in full strength. Allow it to rebuild, step by step, moment by moment. Because what is being restored now is not just what was lost. It is being rebuilt stronger, with awareness that was not there before. And this awareness is what will keep you aligned moving forward. You have already taken the most important step by responding. And now, you continue by staying open, staying aware, and staying willing to act when you feel that inner prompting again. This is how the silence is broken permanently. This is how the gap is closed for good. And as this connection strengthens, something powerful begins to return with it, something you may have already started to feel again, a sense of protection, a sense of covering, a sense that you are no longer exposed in the same way. What comes next will reveal how that covering is restored fully, and how it begins to surround you once again with strength, clarity, and peace. Now something begins to change around you, not in a dramatic flash, not in a way that startles you, but in a steady, undeniable return of what once felt distant. This is the restoration of God's covering, and it does not come back as a vague feeling. It returns as a real, active presence that begins to reshape your experience from within and around you. The moment you chose to respond, the moment you broke the silence and acted on that nudge, a shift was already set in motion. What was interrupted has begun to flow again. What was weakened has started to strengthen. And now, step by step, the covering that had started to pull away is being drawn back over your life. You may already feel the first signs of this restoration. There is a slight return of calm where there was once tension. Your thoughts may feel clearer, less scattered. Decisions that felt heavy may now feel lighter, more manageable. These are not small changes. They are the early signs that alignment is being restored, and with it, the protection that surrounds you. Archangel Michael is actively involved in this restoration. His role does not end with a warning. He remains present as the covering is rebuilt, reinforcing what you have chosen to correct. Where there was once an opening, he now stands as a guard again, strengthening the boundary that protects you from what you cannot see. But understand this clearly: the restoration of the covering is not automatic without your continued awareness. What you have begun must now be sustained. Not through pressure, not through fear, but through a renewed attentiveness to your connection. The covering responds to alignment, and alignment is maintained through your willingness to remain aware, to respond when you feel guided, and to avoid returning to silence when something calls for your attention. This does not mean you must become perfect. It means you must remain present. As the covering returns, you will notice that things begin to flow again. Opportunities that felt blocked may start to open. Delays may begin to resolve. Situations that felt complicated may become simpler. This is not because circumstances are magically changing. It is because you are now moving within the protection and guidance that allows those circumstances to align in your favor. There is also a deeper sense of peace that begins to settle within you. Not just the absence of stress, but a quiet assurance that you are where you need to be. This is one of the strongest signs that the covering has returned. Because peace is not just an emotion, it is a signal of alignment. Archangel Michael continues to stand with you in this phase, ensuring that what has been restored is not easily shaken again. But his presence works with your awareness. The more you stay connected, the stronger this covering becomes. And here is something powerful: the covering that returns after awareness is often stronger than the one that was there before. Because now, it is not just surrounding you, it is working with you. You are no longer unaware of its presence. You recognize it. You value it. And that awareness creates a deeper level of alignment that strengthens everything. Think about where you were just a short time ago, feeling the shift, sensing the distance, unsure of what was happening. And now, compare that to what you are beginning to feel. There is a difference, even if it is subtle. That difference is the restoration in motion. But do not stop here. Do not treat this as something that has been fixed once and for all without continued attention. This is a living connection. It grows stronger as you stay aligned, and it weakens when you drift into silence again. The key is not to fear losing it. It is to remain aware of how it is maintained. You have already shown that you can respond. You have already stepped back into alignment. Now, you continue forward with that same awareness. Because as you do, something even greater begins to unfold: a shift that goes beyond restoration, a transformation that begins to take place within you, changing how you move, how you decide, and how you experience everything around you. And that is what you are about to step into next. Something profound begins to take shape within you now, something that goes beyond simply fixing what was disrupted. This is not just restoration anymore. This is transformation. Because when you act within the right moment, when you respond instead of delaying, when you realign while the window is still open, it changes the way you move forward from this point on. You are no longer the same person who ignored that nudge. There is a new awareness forming inside you, a sharper sensitivity to what you feel, to what you sense, to what quietly calls for your attention. What once could be dismissed now feels important. What once could be delayed now feels urgent in a different way, not rushed but clear. This is the shift that happens when alignment is restored in time. Archangel Michael is present in this transformation, not just as a protector, but as a witness to your growth. Because what you have done is not small. You recognize the moment. You chose to act. You stepped back into alignment before the gap became something deeper. And that decision carries power. Now, as you move forward, you will begin to notice changes that go beyond external circumstances. Yes, things around you may start to flow more easily again. Yes, the heaviness you once felt may continue to lift. But the greatest change is happening within you. You begin to trust what you feel more deeply. There is less hesitation, less second guessing. When something within you speaks, you listen with greater attention. And when you listen, you respond more quickly. This creates a rhythm, a steady, consistent flow of awareness and action that keeps you aligned in a way that feels natural rather than forced. This is where strength is built. Because alignment is not just about avoiding mistakes. It is about developing a way of moving through life where you remain connected, aware, and responsive. And now, you are stepping into that way of living. Archangel Michael reinforces this shift by maintaining the covering that has been restored. But now, that covering works in harmony with your awareness. It is no longer something operating around you without your recognition. It is something you feel, something you sense, something you move within consciously. And as this continues, something else begins to happen. You start to notice that the same signs that once warned you of misalignment now guide you in staying aligned. The disturbance in your peace becomes a signal to pause and reflect. The clarity in your thoughts becomes a confirmation that you are moving correctly. The sense of ease becomes an indicator that you are within the covering. You begin to understand your own spiritual signals. This is the transformation that sets you apart from where you were before. You are no longer unaware. You are no longer disconnected from what you feel. You are present, attentive, and responsive. And this changes everything. Because now, moments like the one you just experienced do not catch you off guard in the same way. You recognize them earlier. You respond faster. You correct more easily. And as a result, the covering remains strong and stable around you. This is what happens when you act in time. You avoid the deeper consequences. You prevent the longer distance. And instead of struggling to return later, you remain aligned now. This is the power of your decision. This is the result of choosing awareness over delay. Take a moment to feel that. Feel the difference between where you were and where you are now. Feel the clarity returning. Feel the peace settling. Feel the strength building within you. This is real. This is the shift that has taken place because you chose to respond. And as you continue forward, remember this moment, not as something that almost went wrong, but as something that awakened you. Because this moment has changed the way you will move from here on. Archangel Michael remains with you, not just for this moment, but as a continued presence of protection and guidance. And now, you are aligned with that presence in a way that is stronger than before. What comes next is not a warning. It is peace. A calm, steady assurance that you are covered, protected, and exactly where you need to be. Beloved soul, now everything becomes still. The urgency that once surrounded you begins to soften. The tension that tried to rise within you starts to fade. And in its place, something gentle, something steady, something deeply comforting begins to settle over your life once again. This is the return of peace. This is the feeling of being covered, protected, and held in a way that cannot be shaken easily. You made the choice. In a moment where silence could have continued, you spoke. In a moment where delay could have taken over, you acted. And because of that, everything has shifted. Not just around you, but within you. The gap that once formed has now been closed. The distance that tried to grow has now been removed. And the covering that began to pull away has now returned. Fully, gently, powerfully. Archangel Michael stands at peace now, not because the moment was small, but because the outcome has been secured. What could have become heavy has been lifted. What could have turned into struggle has been redirected. And what could have created distance has instead created a deeper connection. Take a moment to breathe this in. You are not exposed. You are not unprotected. You are not alone. You are covered. There is a quiet strength around you now, a presence that steadies your thoughts, calms your emotions, and reassures your path. You may not see it, but you can feel it. It is in the way your mind is no longer racing. It is in the way your heart feels lighter. It is in the way your spirit feels at rest. This is what it means to be under God's covering. And now, you understand something you did not fully see before. His covering is not something distant or unreachable. It is something you live within when you remain aware, when you stay connected, when you respond instead of turning away. It is not about perfection. It is about presence. And you have chosen to be present. Carry this forward with you. Let this moment remind you of how quickly things can shift when you listen, when you act, when you trust what is being placed within you. You do not need to fear losing this covering again. You simply need to remain aware of how it is sustained. Archangel Michael will continue to stand with you, not just in moments of urgency, but in moments of peace. His presence is not only for warning, it is for protection, guidance, and quiet reassurance as you move forward. So rest now. Let your thoughts settle. Let your spirit be calm. Let your heart feel safe again. Because what needed to be corrected has been corrected. What needed to be restored has been restored. And what needed to return has returned. You are aligned. You are protected. You are covered. Type "I am covered" in the comments if you receive this peace into your life right now. Blessing code 9090 has just been released, sealing divine protection, lasting alignment, and unshakable peace over your path. And as this peace settles over you, hear this calling: what you just experienced is not only for you. There are others still in that silent moment, still unaware, still standing where you once stood. When you give, you become a vessel that carries this light into their darkness. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And right now, this is your moment to respond. I feel led to help this message reach someone who needs it right now. When you release your seed through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description and QR code, you are opening a river that flows into unseen lives, restoring what was almost lost for them too. Do not hesitate in this moment. What you release now will return to you in multiplied covering, in multiplied peace, in multiplied favor. Step into this act as obedience, not obligation. Give now, and let your seed become someone else's rescue.